Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening for the virtual town hall meeting for students and parents. I'm Keith Miles, Interim Director of the Office of Communications, and I'll serve as your moderator for this forum. You will hear from FAMU President Dr. Larry Robinson and key members of the senior leadership team on important topics related to the university's reopening and other planned operational protocols as we move forward. Additionally, they will respond to many of your questions that we've already received. So thank you for those queries, and we'll try to answer as many questions as time will allow during this town hall broadcast. To submit a live question on Zoom, click on the Q&A icon on your screen. And if we can't get to your question, please send them to townhall@famu.edu. And I'll say that again, it's townhall@famu.edu. And we will respond. Let me also welcome those of you who are joining us this evening on FAMU's Facebook page. This evening's forum will be recorded and posted to the FAMU coronavirus website located at famu.edu/coronavirus for you to review at your leisure. Thank you again for joining us. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the president of Florida A&M University, Dr. Larry Robinson.
Thank you, Keith, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual town hall meeting so that we can share with you our operational plans for reopening the university. Let me say up front that the health and well-being of the FAMU community, which obviously includes you, our students, your parents, and your family members and loved ones, are our highest considerations. Let me begin by thanking Ms. Rika Calhoun, who chaired our task force for the long hours and the hard work that they put in developing our reopening plan. Our Board of Trustees approved the plan just last week, and we were submitted to the Board of Governors prior to their June 12th deadline. In fact, earlier today, approved the plan for submission to the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors will hear each university, the state university system, present their plan and vote to approve those plans on June the 23rd in Orlando, Florida. It's our desire to provide you with information to help your transformation back for returning students and to welcome incoming students and explain how our operational plans are all done with you in mind. We met earlier this afternoon with the faculty, and this evening your input and your questions we want to hear from as well. We know that there's a fairly comprehensive plan with lots of parts to it. However, it was necessary, we believe, to help present the highest level of safety that we could provide under these very, very difficult circumstances. We received many questions already, and so I want to thank those of you who submitted those in advance because they will help us guide our discussion this evening. We also have with us this evening Student Government Association President and FAMU Trustee Xavier McClinton, who has joined us to welcome you to this evening's town hall meeting. Trustee McClinton, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Robinson. I wanted to make sure I took a second to thank the task force for putting this plan together. I know, like you mentioned, they spent countless hours going through this plan and putting this program together and developing the way in which we decided to come back in the fall. I wholeheartedly believe in this plan and really think that that it's something that all students will benefit from, and even as a Board of Trustee member, was able to go ahead and vote for this plan and really be in favor and support it. I believe that allows us to make sure we have the in-person contact and communication with our professors that we need to have, and as well as the student resources, in addition to being able to remain safe throughout the pandemic as we hopefully hit the tail end of it here soon. We have a role to play as a student body, and I'm sure we'll hear about that a little bit later on today, but I still feel confident in the plan and still feel confident in overall that we'll be able to complete this role and to ultimately continue to have the best semester and best school year possible under these circumstances. So with that, thank you, Dr. Robinson, for having me here and for having this panel for our students to be able to have this open dialogue with you.
Okay, Dr. Rock.
Yes, I'm sorry. I lost my signal for a minute there. But I do want to take this opportunity to present to you Ms. Rika Calhoun, our Chief Compliance and Ethics Officer, and as I said earlier, the chair of our task force on operations continuity. She will begin our conversation this evening by providing you with an overview of our plan, and following that, Ms. Calhoun's presentation, Keith Miles will introduce the rest of the senior leadership team panelists. Ms. Calhoun.
Good evening. As Dr. Robinson mentioned, I will be providing an overview of the university reopening plan that was approved by the FAMU Board of Trustees on Thursday, June 4th. Like many universities across the country, we have spent the last months responding to the pandemic and planning for reopening. The contributions of members from every administrative and academic division across the university continue to aid this large-scale effort. The approved fall reopening plan was developed contemplating the internal work of the task force and response teams, as well as external guidance from industry partners and state oversight bodies. Key assumptions during planning focused on the continued presence of the virus, the impact of comorbidities, and the importance of training and education reinforcement. The university's reopening plan also comports with the blueprint approved by the Florida Board of Governors. The blueprint serves as an outline of critical elements for all universities and the state university system to consider. The 5 elements of the plan include a focus on healthy campus and community environments, COVID-19 virus testing, contact tracing and surveillance, and academic program delivery. A few highlights follow. We are continuing preparation of constituencies and spaces for the fall. Some key points in the timeline of our fall reopen focus on training and cleaning protocols, as well as a return to campus for faculty, staff, and you. The university is employing a phased approach to ensure that we are appropriately managing returning groups leading up to reopening. Social distancing will be observed on our campuses, as evidenced by reduced occupancy in residence halls and classrooms. Students requesting accommodations may request assistance from the Center for Disability Access and Resources, otherwise known as CEDAR. The university has implemented enhanced cleaning protocols, which you will hear more about tonight. Faculty, staff, and students are required to wear face coverings in buildings, classrooms, and in public spaces in which social distancing cannot be observed. The university is providing return kits to employees and students, which include 1 disposable face covering, 2 reusable face coverings, and 2 personal containers of hand sanitizer. Each kit will also contain information about university expectations regarding hand and cough hygiene, as well as social distancing. Students will receive their kits through distribution points on our campuses. Hand sanitizer refill stations will also be placed throughout the campuses. Faculty, staff, and students will receive COVID-19 training prior to their return. COVID-19 testing is available free of charge on our main campus. Students are strongly encouraged to take advantage of this testing. We have located community testing sites for our satellite locations and the College of Law. You will hear more about the COVID-19 Detect and Response Framework as well. So those are some of our highlights. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic is an unprecedented event that is quickly changing all the time in the backdrop of current events, including national unrest and the 2020 hurricane season. Flexibility is not only needed in planning, but through implementation. You will hear great information tonight about the things that the university is doing to prepare for your return and a successful fall reopening, but we cannot do it without you. We, as members of the university community, must commit to the shared responsibility of keeping ourselves and each other as safe as possible. It is critically important for faculty, staff, students, visitors, and vendors to adhere to policies and protocols enforcing the university's response to COVID-19, including social distancing guidelines, facial covering requirements, and hygiene and cleaning practices. We look forward to welcoming you back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calhoun. Provost Maurice Eddington, CFO Dr. Alan Robertson, Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. William Hudson Jr., and Vice President and Director of Athletics, Courtney Gaucher, are all here and will share their thoughts about our reopening plans and answer some of the questions you submitted. We will begin this evening with Provost Eddington.
Thank you, Keith. And good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak with you. I'm going to dive right in with respect to addressing some of the questions that were submitted, and also try to address some of the basic facts in terms of our planning. As you may have read, we are going to offer a combination of instructional modes for the fall, that is combining online instruction with face-to-face instruction for courses at the undergraduate, graduate, and professional levels. In addition, our academic support services will be available to students in person and remotely. The fall semester is scheduled to begin on time, which is first day of classes on August 24th and the last day of class on December 4th. We will transition to fully online instruction after the Thanksgiving break, and we are considering starting that break a day early, meaning that on the evening of Tuesday of that week, following the end of classes, we will have Wednesday off and return at least to instruction on that following Monday. With respect to summer commencement, that is going to be a virtual ceremony per guidance that all state universities has recently received from the Florida Board of Governors, directing us not to have in-person ceremonies. With respect to classes, all students and faculty, while they're in the classroom setting, will be required to wear masks. And then one last factual point before I address the specific questions around tuition rates for out-of-state students. We got a lot of questions about whether or not those rates will be lowered, and those are fixed rates, and we won't be lowering the rates for out-of-state tuition. That's set because in-state tuition is subsidized for residents of the state because they contribute to the state's tax base, and that's subsidized by the state of Florida. Now to jump into some of the specific questions. Will every student on campus have at least one course that is face-to-face? We are working to offer a wide array of face-to-face courses. However, we can't guarantee that each and every student will have at least one face-to-face course. When will the list of courses that would be held in person be released to students? We're working on updating the schedule of classes that's currently online. We expect to have the revised schedule available for students in early July, and that will allow students to see which courses are going to be offered face-to-face and which courses are going to be offered online. How many courses will be offered in the fall? We're planning to offer the same breadth of courses this fall as we do every fall. It's just that obviously some of those courses will be offered in an online format. Next question, how many students will be arriving on campus in the fall? We don't know the answer to that yet. We're tracking several indicators which help us to predict what the enrollment is going to be. And thus far, all of our tracking numbers are in line with our historical numbers. But obviously, as you all know, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we'll continue to monitor that as we progress closer to the start of the fall semester. Will graduate students have an opportunity to enter labs before traditional university operations begin? We're going to phase the return to the labs as we phase in the overall return to work. And that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. We expect that the graduate students will begin coming back in phase 2 in alignment with plans that they work out with their advisors in accordance with social distancing guidelines. One question, and I'll paraphrase it just to make it more general, it's asking if students who have medical issues and require accommodations, which will prevent them from being able to attend classes in person, will they be able to attend some of those classes remotely? And we're going to work with all of our students to provide accommodations as needed. And students should work directly with their academic programs, as well as our Center for Access and Disability to get appropriate accommodations as needed. Next question, the plan states that a lot of our community areas, the access will be limited. How do you plan to limit the use of computers and equipment, especially in programs such as journalism where students need access to complete projects and build portfolios? So students will still have access to those facilities. It's just that we're going to restrict access so that we can adhere to social distancing guidelines, right? So students will have to be a little more methodical about planning and scheduling the use of the facilities, but we will still make them available as needed. Will the grading system for the fall semester be similar to this past spring? The answer is no. The modified grading policy was available only for the spring 2020 semester. Will certain students, such as upperclassmen, have the option to choose fully online or hybrid? That will depend on the final array of courses that we make available in July. And the combination is going to vary by program with respect to what students will have available. But again, we're trying to offer a variety of courses in both formats, face-to-face and online. Will resources such as Coleman Library and the tutorial labs be available for students to utilize in the fall? Yes, those services, the library, tutorial services, academic coaching, etc., will be available in both formats, remotely as well as in person for students who come to the campus. Will there be clearly marked seating with the minimum 6-foot distance requirement between students? Yes, our classroom and learning spaces will all be reconfigured to promote appropriate social distancing guidelines. Will at-risk students be accommodated? And again, yes, students will have an opportunity to request accommodations through our Center for Disability Access and Resources, CDAR, as well as working with their academic programs so that they can receive the appropriate accommodations. And then last question, what happens if students don't follow social distancing guidelines once they come back in the fall? Will punitive measures to enforce social distancing be imposed? And yes, students will be expected to adhere to our social distancing guidelines and protocols, and their conduct will be governed by the Student Code of Conduct, which does address these types of expectations. And so we're going to work very hard to communicate to students what the expectations are and continuously reinforce those expectations, as well as holding them accountable if they deviate from that. So Mr. Moderator, that's the last question.
Okay, thank you, Provost Eddington. We've received several questions regarding funding during this coronavirus pandemic and how those dollars will be used. Chief Financial Officer Dr. Alan Robertson is here to update us on those plans.
Good evening. We did receive CARES Act funding, and a lot of that money was used to refund student housing and meal plans from the spring. The balance of those proceeds from the CARES Act money was used to purchase sanitation equipment and supplies for the campus, as well as personal protective equipment such as masks and gloves and those types of things. I'm going to also jump right into the questions. And the first one is concerning social distancing and meal plans in the dorm. So I understand that classes will end after Thanksgiving and go online. Will dorm and meal plan charges be reduced due to this decision? The answer to that is yes. We are adjusting meal plan pricing and also housing accommodations based on when the semester begins and when it will end. so that we don't find ourselves in a situation of having to go through refunds again. So those prices will be reduced. The next question submitted was, how is FAMU going to control food places such as the cafeteria and dining time? Are students going to be turned away from the cafe, and are students going to be allowed to eat on campus? The response, in accordance with the university's opening plans and in conjunction with the CDC, federal, state, and local guidelines, METS and the university are working together on a proposal that will allow all students to eat on campus. But there will be significant changes that will allow students to eat in the dining hall and other venues safely. Access to the dining hall will be restricted through a combination of assigned meal times and social distancing and lines. Each facility will be set up with a directional flow that will allow for a reduction of interaction and cross spaces during visits. No concept will allow for self-service. So instead, our food service provider will serve the meals and/or box the meals for students to avoid crowding. We will also have dining options outside and also provide for social distancing within the cafeteria. METS is also working to ensure that all dining options have increased safety, such as implementing temperature checks for all staff, masks for employees working with guests, and gloves for all servers, combined with increased monitoring and training for the staff. And so we realize that the fall plan is a living and changing document, and will allow some flexibility as we get back to campus and learn from this current situation. The next question involves classroom seating and distancing, and Provost Eddington discussed some of this. There will be clearly marked seating with a maximum distance of 6 feet between students. Facilities will follow the lead of the registrar. Once programming efforts are complete for the fall semester, facilities will work with the registrar to completely mark the seats that can and cannot be used during class, and furniture and classroom layouts will be adjusted as necessary. Who has assured and reviewed the space layouts for classes? That's pretty much the same question that we just answered. But this task is a collaboration of several departments. It includes our facilities planning, registrar, student health, and environmental health and safety. All facilities have been surveyed to determine the maximum capacity based on social and physical distancing requirements of at least 6 feet. Coordinating with the Student Health Services and Office of Human Resources, we've developed a university-wide social and physical distance guideline with tailored plans for high-risk areas. We're removing and arranging seating to reduce capacity, not only for students, but also in student offices, lounges, and reception areas and conference rooms. We will be adding panels to separate adjacent workspaces within defined classrooms. We're going to install sneeze guards where needed. We're going to remove and limit shared workspaces. We're designing limited rooms as single occupancy only. We're using floor decals and signage to direct traffic and maintain 6 feet distancing. And we're encouraging the use of video conferencing where appropriate. In terms of the elevators, we will ridership to 2 individuals in regular elevators. We're prohibiting large gatherings of 10 or more people, and meetings of 2 to 10 persons be held in locations that will allow for a minimum of 6 feet distancing of the participants. The next question relates to classroom sanitation. Who is responsible for classroom sanitation daily between classes, and are they reliable? We've outsourced a number of cleaning services and have been deep cleaning the campus for the last month. Our plant operations and maintenance plans are to provide cleaning and sanitation products for students and faculty to utilize between classes. Students and faculty are encouraged to be a part of the overall effort as outlined in the reopening plan just approved by the Board of Trustees. POM will clean and sanitize classroom spaces once a day as part of the cleaning protocol. What is included in sanitation? We're using chemical fogging, automated sprayers and manual spray processes, electrostatic spraying, manual disinfection, and we're increasing our routines of just manual sanitation, wiping down surfaces, debris removal, sweeping, mopping, dusting, and vacuuming of all surfaces in hallways, classrooms, restrooms, labs, to keep spaces safe. POM will also, plant operation and maintenance will also continue to monitor and continue to upgrade our cleaning in accordance with CDC guidelines. And I think that was my last question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robertson. And we have received many questions on housing, students returning to campus, access to campus, recruitment, dining services, and other student-related issues. Dr. William Hudson Jr., Vice President for Student Affairs, will address many of those concerns.
You're on mute, Bill. You're on mute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Keith. I would like to personally thank the students for your passion, your dedication, your perseverance, and flexibility during this COVID-19 epidemic. We believe in you, we miss you, and for those returning students, and we welcome the incoming freshman class. I want to thank current SGA President Xavier McClinton and immediate past SGA President Rashad Morissette for their leadership through this crisis. I have several topics from prepared questions that I'll provide information on. We'll begin with orientation, move-in, and housing. In order to comply with CDC and local requirements for physical distancing, the university has converted on-campus housing double occupancy rooms to single occupancy. University housing is assigned on a first-come, first-served basis. Approximately 1,905 residence hall rooms are available, which include first-time students and returning students who selected on-campus housing during the early application period starting in November 2019 and were awarded housing. Students who wish to opt out of housing may do so without penalty by June 22nd, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. Students assigned housing have been notified via university email. Students who apply for on-campus housing and are on the wait list will be notified once vacancies occur. Students who do not have the ability to secure on-campus housing or off-campus housing will have the option to take a full course load online. Students who do not receive university housing will receive their refund of the $200 deposit. Move-in will be August 15th and August 18th based on students' major. New student orientation will be held on August 16th through 18th and August 19th through the 21st, which are also major specific. This information can be found at the new student orientation website, and students have received communication through the university official mode of communication, their FAMU email. Students should check their emails daily for updates. Students will have to move out of the residence halls on Wednesday, November 25th, unless they have documented extenuating circumstances prior to the first day of class. The housing rate has been prorated and is based on the halls closing at the Thanksgiving break, unless students are residing in the university apartments and have extenuating circumstances which require them to stay through the end of the term, which is December 13th. The villages will remain a two-person suite as they have separate bedrooms. Students will be allowed to have vehicles on campus. However, they must register all vehicles with the Department of Campus Safety. The shuttle buses will continue to run per the schedule. We will continue to encourage students to download the FAMU app to ensure they are receiving real-time information on arrival and departure of the shuttles. There will be a lower number of riders for the fall semester, and we will increase our shuttle frequency to ensure students have a positive commute. One other point, the towers will remain, as the question that was just received, towers will remain for upperclassmen, and if a person selected a single and were awarded a single assignment, that will remain the same. Student Code of Conduct. The University Student Code of Conduct applies to student behavior on and off campus. Students are expected to comply with all state and federal laws, rules, and local ordinances and orders. Failure to do so constitutes a violation of Regulation 2.012 and will be addressed appropriately. We do hope students will consider the risk of exposure and potential risk to their loved ones if they do not apply by the guidelines. Student activities and student life. The Everson Student Union, Office of Student Activities, will be conducting virtual programming throughout the summer and fall semesters. Programming information will be sent via FAMU Info as well as the iStrike portal. The Everson Student Union, Office of Student Activities, has asked advisors and chapter offices to develop a fully virtual plan for recruitment for clubs and organizations. Intake for fraternity and sorority life will rely solely on the national headquarters guidelines for virtual intake. Fraternities and sororities will not be permitted to perform in-person membership intake until after consultation with all stakeholders, including Student Health Services. Admissions and recruitment. Currently, the ACT test registration deadline is June 19th with a test date of July 18th. If any high school student has not taken the ACT, that is their opportunity to take it to meet the minimum requirements for admission. For recruitment, we are hopeful that we will have the option to visit high schools and community colleges in the fall for recruitment purposes. However, a decision about recruitment cannot be determined at this time. We must wait until school districts make a determination regarding their operations in response to COVID-19 and adherence to social distancing and physical distancing guidelines as published by the CDC. In the interim, we continue to develop alternative strategies for online and recruitment and virtual tours on campus. Thank you for your continued service to our community and to the FAMU community, and we look forward to having you back on campus. I will be available to answer questions later. Keith, back to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hudson. Many questions we received were also about athletic events and inquiring about what are the plans for the fall. Vice President and Director of Athletics, Courtney Gaucher, joins us for an update.
Good evening, Rattlers. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Robinson for allowing us to come on and obviously give you some updates with athletics. It is an exciting time to be a Rattler, and we are working diligently to create frameworks to bring our student athletes back to campus as early as July 1st. Right now, our main priority is the health and welfare of all of our student athletes, and so that's a process. But all indications show that we will be playing football this fall, and that includes homecoming. Right now, it will be a little bit different as far as our formats and maybe capacity, and that's why it's important for all of our fans and donors to get their season tickets. They're investing in champions programs, and in that way we can determine how many students that we will actually be able to facilitate in our stadiums. Again, I spoke with Coach Simmons this morning. We are excited. We're planning to win a MEAC championship this year, and that's on Larry. And so we're excited about that and what the fall will look like. But again, understanding that it will be a little bit different. We're excited to get our student athletes back to the Hill, and we're excited about having our students back on campus as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, VP and AD Gaucher. Students and parents have also been very supportive of our fundraising efforts to help students during this pandemic. Vice President of the FAMU Foundation and Dean of the School of Business, Dr. Shante Friday-Stroud, joins us to thank you for your support and to provide this update.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Miles. Thank you all for joining us, and I want to start out by saying those of you all who have donated to our FAMU Cares effort, we thank you for it. And to our students, many of you all have been able to benefit from the donations that a lot of our donors, alums, as well as corporate partners have made. So we've been able to provide laptops to students. That is donated laptops that have been shipped directly to students' homes such that they are able to navigate their online classes. We process some as of today. So if you have Chromebooks, if you're using your cell phone and you are finding that you're not able to complete your exams, where professors are requiring the lockdown browser, please let your deans know. Your deans have a capability of submitting your information to be vetted to receive a donated laptop. And so, again, we're just very thankful to our donors, who include our alums as well as corporate partners for what they're doing to enable us to provide assistance to our students. And you too can give. Does not matter how big nor how small. Any amount helps, and collectively, all of that enables us to help our students. We thank you. And we are looking forward to you all returning, maybe virtually, but we are definitely looking forward to you all returning, enrolling, and still having a great fall 2020 semester, regardless of the format. Back to you, Mr. Miles. You're on mute, Mr. Miles.
All right, thank you, Dr. Friday-Stroud. Now we will answer some of the questions that you've sent during this town hall. Remember, the recording of this event will be posted to the FAMU coronavirus website at famu.edu/coronavirus to review at your leisure and to hear some of the remarks that you may have been missed if you tuned in late, but have been covered for some of your concerns. And so we'll go to the question portal now. And this one probably is for Dr. Eddington, and it's a question we've seen quite frequently, and that is, what is a hybrid class?
Yeah, thank you, Keith. So there's two answers to that, depending on how the term is used, but the typical definition of a hybrid course, it is a course that's taught in a term, and it's taught by a combination of online instruction and in-person instruction. So an example is, if I have a course that meets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's a hybrid course, then I might teach 2 days a week in class face-to-face. And then the third session might be held either online in real time, or may use that time for students to complete work that's placed online. So that's the technical definition of hybrid. The reason why I'm saying there's two answers, we're also offering a hybrid mix of courses, which is something that's different. And what we mean by that is that we're going to offer courses on the campus via the online format in the fall, as well as in person. And so hopefully those two different explanations make sense. But the technical term has to do with a combination of in-person and online instruction for a given course.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Eddington. In reference to tuition and fees, this question asks, should we expect there to be an increase in those revenues or those charges?
No, we don't expect there to be an increase, Keith. That's an absolute no at this particular time, because we're doing everything we can to minimize, the cost on our students and their families as they go into these very, very difficult times economically, in Florida and around the nation. So no, we don't anticipate any increases in the overall cost of attendance at the university at this time. I do want to clarify, and Bill, maybe you can help with this as well. When Dr. Hudson says students would move out in the semester in terms of the dormitories on the 25th or whatever that date is, I know there's some flexibility around that. That did not imply, should not imply to any of you that we're not planning on operating for the spring semester. Someone asked the question, are there no plans to return for the spring? Yes, we do hope to return for the spring, but it's too early to start definitive, planning for that. And so otherwise, we plan to come back in the spring, hopefully with a new set of conditions than the ones we're operating under this fall. We're prayerful of that. But it's really going to depend upon all of us working together to sort of minimize, doing everything that we can to minimize any problems with the COVID-19 virus on our particular campus, as well as the places you visit. But yes, we plan to be around in the spring of 2021 and a lot longer than that. I just want to emphasize that point.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, President Robinson. This question is about testing, and we have an outstanding COVID site on campus. It's already tested over 9,500 people. The question is about faculty and students being tested. And Dr. Hudson, if Ms. Tatum is also on the call tonight, just give us an update on testing and what the expectations will be.
Ms. Tatum is on the call, and I'll defer to her.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the question. And we really have worked very hard with the COVID-19 testing site that we opened up at Bragg Stadium. It is a community testing site, and individuals may come there and be tested at no charge. The expectation that we have for the university, for faculty, staff, and students is that you do get tested. We're not making a mandate. However, we're strongly encouraging everyone to be tested. We'd like for you to be tested before you come to campus. And then depending upon your activities once you're on campus, we would like to have you test additional times if necessary. Students that might be in particular organizations that are meeting more frequently, or that live in residence halls, students that are in healthcare profession programs, and student athletes are some of the groups of students that we'd like to see test on a more regular basis. But what we'd like to do is, at this point in time, is to really take advantage of that testing site that we have at Bragg. It's supported by the state and the Department of Emergency Management, and it's really good information for people to get tested to find out. We've found out that a lot of individuals who may have COVID-19 may not have symptoms, and that's largely in our younger population. So we really like to encourage everyone to get tested, just to find out, and then to take care and observe social distancing and wear your face coverings so that we can minimize the spread. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tatum. Dr. Eddington, I know that you mentioned during your presentation that the expectation will be for students to wear masks during class. This question asks, does the mask have to be provided by the school, or can we bring our own?
Yeah, so actually I'll defer that to Tanya or Rika.
Okay.
This is Tanya again. Students may certainly have their own mask. We encourage you to make sure that you're wearing a mask, and you may have one that feels more comfortable for you. We will make sure that everybody has access to them, both the ones that we provide, and then there'll be vending machines available throughout campus that you'll be able to purchase them if you happen to forget. If you do wear the cloth face coverings, we do ask that you launder them on a regular basis, but otherwise take precautions and wear them when you're in areas where you can observe the social distancing and when you're in common areas on campus. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about housing. The questions about how students and housing will be administered for this fall semester. Dr. Hudson.
Could you repeat that question? And I have Dr. Wilder on the line to also talk about housing.
Yeah, just how will housing be administered for this fall semester?
Well, that is a process that begins in November. And so students apply early, particularly returning students. Freshmen, once they're admitted, they have the option to apply as well to select housing. And so, Dr. Wilder, you want to go a little further?
Sure. Good evening. Housing is on first come, first served basis. And if the question is asking how we're going to determine who's going to be where, that's how we will do it. It's based on the date we receive their application. As Dr. Hudson stated earlier, all our double rooms will become singles this year. And so students received an email from our office yesterday afternoon. Students who have an assignment received an email yesterday afternoon telling them that they had until June 22nd to let us know if they have chosen to now not live on campus. I noticed there was a question about if people wanted to still apply. You have to apply by then, but it's first come, first served. So if we are able to accommodate you based on cancellations that we receive, then we will be able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilder and Dr. Hudson.
Keith, if I could just clarify something because I think this cuts across several questions, and it may be because of the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago prior to going to the board about who's coming back to campus. I just want to reemphasize that, you know, from freshmen to graduate to professional students, all of which will be on campus to one extent or the other, okay? There's a perception that on campus is only for freshman students, and that's not the case. So I just wanted to clarify that. However, the details about what classes will be available and when, that's being worked out by the provost and the academic deans. They'll have that information available in early July in time for people to start making definitive plans.
Okay, thank you, sir. And this question for Ms. Calhoun, I believe, is the reopening plan the same for FAMU law students?
So there are slight variations. We share the fact that we will be supporting them in providing, sanitizing and materials, but they do have a different calendar, and they will be providing more information for you later this week.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Eddington, will there be an in-person fall graduation? If so, what day?
We don't have an answer to that question as of right now. You know, we're going to proceed according to guidelines and directives and instructions provided by the appropriate authorities. It is our hope to have an in-person ceremony as soon as it is allowable. And so we're just going to proceed cautiously and plan based on available guidance.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. This one is for Dr. Hudson. Regarding events for student organizations, will they be allowed this fall?
Virtual events will be allowed this fall, as I stated earlier. Organizations will have to abide by the CDC guidelines and also have to go through student activities and also meet with student health services to ensure any activities fall in between those guidelines. We want to make sure we keep our campus safe and healthy to make sure that our students have a productive semester. So after they go through student activities and student health, and depending on the type of activity they're going to have, we'll make that determination.
Okay, thank you, sir. This question I think is for Dr. Eddington about teacher training and their capacity to instruct remotely during the fall semester if the course is an online, more of an online or hybrid course.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the faculty are participating this summer in a suite of training activities, and it's going to be focused on making sure that they have a detailed knowledge and understanding of how to operate the technology, how to use pedagogical best practices for teaching online, and really how to be very engaging to the students in that online format. So we have a very comprehensive training program that's being put in place for faculty this summer. So our expectation is that all students will be provided with an exceptional learning experience across all programs.
Okay.
Yeah, Keith, there's another question I think might want to direct to Ms. Tatum or Ms. Calhoun regarding if a student tests positive for COVID-19, what's the protocol?
Okay, yes.
This is Tanya, and if a student tests positive for COVID-19, a lot depends on whether or not they are living on campus or off campus. We will certainly work with the health department to make sure we, one, get that student into care as soon as possible. If they are living in the residence halls, they will be asked to move to the quarantine or self-isolation area that we have allocated to make sure that we are able to take care of them, and we'll have nursing personnel to check in with them on a daily basis. We'll be working with the Department of Health, with the Florida Department of Health, to make sure that we follow up with anyone who's had significant contact with them. The one thing about COVID-19 is the virus spreads very easily. And so we want to make sure that we identify any contacts so that they can also start to monitor for symptoms and so forth. If the student lives off campus, we'll work with them to make sure they're able to self-quarantine or isolate as needed. And if they are in need of additional medical care, we'll assist them in making sure that that happens on their behalf.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tatum. This question, due to financial hardships, will tuition payments be given extra time to be paid in full? I don't know if that's an Alan Robertson question or not.
We are looking into a payment plan mechanism. In fact, the president just signed the contract last week, I believe. And so we're going down that road just as fast as we can to create a payment plan that will allow students to divide up any gap between the cost of attendance and their financial aid package. That is not in place yet, but we're going to see if we can't get it fast-tracked so that it might be available for this fall. If not, it definitely will be available for the spring. But we're going to do everything possible to put it in place for the fall.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hudson, will students be allowed to travel off campus or to attend business and or networking conferences as they have in previous years?
I think we'll have a new normal temporarily. I think a lot of those conferences will not be available, and also travel would be restricted for a lot of those types of events. So as we're looking at the fall semester, it'll have to be approved, and we're going to take that into consideration with students traveling and coming back to campus, depending on what's happening with COVID-19.
Okay, this question came up earlier this afternoon in the faculty virtual town hall. Will there be a cap on the number of students allowed in the dining hall, or how will the meal service have time to work to ensure social distancing and cleansing?
And we will practice the same cleaning and sanitation protocols in the cafeteria as well. In the cafeteria, they will have basic social distancing guidelines. There will be tape to cordon off the floor to keep people separate as they're in line. And then we will have at least 6 feet between individuals and groups that are eating. And so we will observe all those guidelines. We're also looking to put some seating and dining outside, which will be a little less restrictive because you're out in the fresh air, but we will follow the Florida guidelines as well as the CDC guidelines in reference to that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robinson. Where can students and faculty and staff get tested after the COVID Bragg Stadium site closes? The site has been extended, as we all know, several times, but and I guess our hope is that it will continue to be extended. But Tanya, that may be a question for you.
Thanks, Keith. We do hope that the site remains open well into the fall. And at this point in time, it looks like it may. But at whatever time that we do end up having to close that site, Student Health Services will pick up the testing protocol and will provide testing for faculty, staff, and students. So
Okay,
we'll have testing still available.
I want to reemphasize the the importance of that site, not only to FAMU, but to this south side of the community of Tallahassee. It has been the most productive. There were only 2 in town, but it has been by far the most productive site in terms of the number of persons coming to get tested. As you heard earlier, over 9,500 persons. The original idea was for that site to be around for 2 weeks, but the demand has been so high and the need so great that our colleagues at the Department of Health in the state of Florida and other partners recognize the significance of that site remaining. And clearly, as we bring students back to town and faculty and staff back to work, it's going to be important, even more important, to have that at our disposal. If not, then we have a backup plan, as you just heard from Ms. Tatum. But I believe that it's in our best interest and the interest of our students and faculty to be able to walk up to that site at any time and be tested. As I said on the faculty town hall meeting earlier today, I want all of you who are in the Tallahassee area, who might be coming through the Tallahassee area, to know that that site is available to you now. You don't have to wait for us to tell you to get tested. I think it would be a good idea for you to take advantage of it long before you start making your way back for the start of classes and those other activities. In fact, one of the best practices you can adhere to as students is to start preparing yourselves, for that return by minimizing, and really adhering to the practices that are being preached about social distancing and not gathering in large crowds without appropriate masks and so forth, long before you head back to Tallahassee. Because some of the news we're hearing about people doing that is leading to greater exposure and larger numbers of cases. You can make a big difference and by just doing the right thing long before you come back to Tallahassee.
Yeah, let me add to what President Robinson is saying. You don't need a doctor's referral, and the site is free. It's a walk-up clinic. You don't even have to have an appointment. You can make an appointment, but it's there, and there's many people, over 9,500, have already taken advantage of the site. So we'll encourage you once again to be tested. This question is about homecoming activities for alumni and friends. Please mention to all visitors to follow the safety guidelines and protocols of FAMU, and will there be any consequences if they are not followed?
I think you heard, for this audience, Dr. Hudson referred to the student code of conduct.
Right.
But we have a code of conduct for all of our employees and staff and visitors. And so we expect them to adhere to those guidelines. If not, then, you know, we will take appropriate actions. But I hope everybody understands how important this is to remain safe, because it's really not just, you know, the individual student or the faculty member, the staff member that's being placed at risk, is their loved ones, right? Some of those more vulnerable people at home, you know, grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts and uncles and so forth. So hopefully we don't have to do this. I mean, we're gonna have everybody properly educated on do's and don'ts around their behavior. And we think that by working together, this is going to be done. It's going to be done well.
Yes, and even visitors and vendors are held to the same standards of, you know, being required to have face coverings and observe social distancing requirements. And if they are unable to do that, then they may lose access to our facilities and services. So it is an expectation that we have for every member of the university community and our community at large.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Calhoun, this one's for Dr. Hudson. Will freshmen be able to bring cars on campus this upcoming semester?
Yes, and they can thank Dr. Robinson. Yes, they will be able to bring cars on campus, but they must be registered through campus safety. So we are looking forward to having students on campus, but be safe with the vehicles and make sure your driver's license are up to date.
All right, thank you. Will there be additional funds available to assist with financial aid, especially for those out-of-state students that have the out-of-state tuition fees?
We are looking at funds to assist out-of-state students with financial assistance once they enroll at the institution. So we will review each case individually to determine how we can assist those students and what they're eligible to receive.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But I want to sort of generalize that. We're looking at ways to support students, whether they're in state or out of state. We do know the special circumstances in terms of costs for out-of-state students, but I believe that students everywhere, you know, being impacted, their families are being impacted financially by this virus, and we're looking to do everything that we can to help. As Dr. Friday Stroud just said, we've got a big push in terms of fundraising to support some very specific, you know, COVID-19 related needs of our students, but we do know as well there's some basic needs around tuition and so forth that students are going to need help with. Because it may very well be that a lot of places that they, you know, found part-time work off campus or the city might not be available when they start arriving. And so those dollars that were very, very important to them and having to pay bills, provide food and transportation costs won't necessarily be available. So we're looking at every source of funds we can to see what we'd be able to do to help students during this pandemic.
And I would also like to encourage returning students to and incoming students to go to the FAMU portal, FAMU scholarship portal, that is, to apply for scholarships that you may qualify for. There are more scholarships available for returning students than freshman students, but I would still suggest that you go out there and look and apply for scholarship opportunities that you meet the criteria for.
Okay, thank you.
And also, Keith, I want to add, they should also look to their departments and their deans for funds to assist them with returning or taking care of the difference between what their balances are as well.
Okay.
Yes, and Keith, related to that, and Bill, you can expand on this because I think it was great what the U.S. Department of Education allowed last year when it came to the students on work study. The question is, what's going to happen with students with work study?
Students will still be eligible for work study. and we'll have those positions. And if they are eligible, we will work with them just as we did in the spring to have remote responsibilities that they can accomplish while they're here taking classes. So work study will still be available in one shape or form.
Great, thank you. This one may be for VP and AD Gaucher. Is the Marching 100 part of the athletics plan? And if so, when are they planning on returning?
All right, that's a good one. I have actually spoke with Dr. Shelby Chipman on several occasions over the past couple of weeks about what that would look like. It is a new normal for us, and so we're trying to determine what's in the best interest of our students and our band members of the Marching 100. And so that is still to be determined. Our goal is to safely pull off as much as a normal event as possible when it comes to our Saturdays in the fall. But right now, there's still a lot of work that has to be done. But we're going to do everything that we can to operate within CDC and university guidelines. And so at this point, we're planning for it, but it will be a little bit different.
Okay, thank you. Here's a follow-up question to the earlier question about freshmen having cars on campus. What will FAMU do to accommodate parking needs on and around campus?
We have not had a deficit in parking. You will not be able to park directly in front of your classroom, but there's enough ample parking across campus for the number of cars that have been registered. And we also have new parking spaces at the new amphitheater where students can utilize that as well. So parking will not be an issue. And if students are on campus and going to class, we're hoping that they're not going to drive to another parking spot to go to a class across campus that they could walk to.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, we want to thank you all for all of those questions. We got quite a few tonight, and we want you to know that if you missed some of the responses in the presentations or answers to the questions, that this virtual town hall will be recorded and posted to the FAMU coronavirus site at famu.edu/coronavirus. And if we didn't get to your question and you'd like to submit it, you can send it to townhall@famu.edu and we will respond with an answer. This is not the only town hall that we'll have tonight for students and parents. We will have several other opportunities to converse with you and discuss the plans as we go forward. And so we want you to know that tonight is to just introduce what the plans are for reopening. And with that in mind, we'd like to go to Dr. Robinson for his closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Keith. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for this town hall meeting this evening. And I hope that it's provided you with some valuable information regarding our reopening of the university. I do want to emphasize once again that your buy-in as students and family members is critical to the success of our reopening and really critical to, I think, the long-term future of this great institution. I want to thank the panelists for sharing their perspectives and expertise on the reopening of the university. And once again, I want to thank Ms. Calhoun and the Task Force for Operational Continuity for their work in getting us to this point in terms of developing of the plan, and thank our board for the deep dive that they gave at their most recent meeting. So I just want to assure you that, we're all Rattlers here, and that our highest concern is, once again, for the health and welfare of the FAMU community. I strongly believe that working together as we have to this point, we will get there together. We will get through this together. So please continue to stay safe and be vigilant in protecting yourselves, students, and your loved ones, your family members, your sisters and brothers, and spouses as you consider your actions leading up to your return to campus. So thank you all for joining us this evening. And thank you, Keith, for moderating this evening's session.
And thank you, Dr. Robinson, and all of the panelists participating in this students and parents virtual town hall and providing vital information for the university community. Your respective leadership has propelled FAMU into the national spotlight on how we have responded to this pandemic. Let me thank the FAMU Institutional Technology team for their technical support and expertise this evening, and the Office of Communications team for all of their hard work during this crisis as well. One last reminder, this town hall will be posted again to famu.edu/coronavirus for you to review later. Finally, thank you too for joining us this evening and participating in an effort to provide accurate information. Please stay safe and good night.
Good evening, everyone.